Okay, hello, welcome to this video on the 4B movement in South Korea. I just wanted to start this video with a little disclaimer that I was initially just going to do this video on the history of patriarchal views in South Korea and how this meshes into the 4B movement, but then the recent election happened in America and I had to realize yet again that women are truly never safe around the world on a global scale. And a lot of women started bringing up the 4B movement in South Korea and asking whether or not this is feasible to go about in other countries. Honestly, this is something I thought about when I first started researching about the 4B movement. I will be talking about this more in the conclusion of this whole video, but I just wanted to keep that in mind while we go through it. Now, in the context of Korea, Confucianism is the belief that relationships are far more important than individualism. This really teaches gender roles in a society that a woman is expected to take care of the family, stay home, while a man is expected to go out, work, and even fight for his family. All men in South Korea are mandated to the military by the time they hit 30, and they're shamed for it if they don't go. And this just enforces these strict gender roles. The four B's, Bihun, Pichosan, Beyonce, and Bisexual really fight against these things. Now, a little side note, I could not find the Hangul of the four B's at all, no matter how hard my research went, and it would have been easier to pronounce them if I got to see the Hangul. I can only find the romanization, so I apologize if these aren't being pronounced properly. Beyond that is the refusal of dating. I will be going like a bit out of order in how I structured the four B's. I think it's just going to be easier to see how it really progresses throughout a woman's life. And that's why I did it this way. Now, from the time that a Korean woman is a young girl, she's conditioned to seek out marriage in very different ways, constantly dating, constantly fixing herself up for dating, etc. Now, we can see this at a surface level in South Korea with cosmetics, plastic surgery, and makeup being leaders in South Korea. This idea of perfection is really strived for. South Korea is really different from here in America, however, where we fight for individualism. South Korea pushes back against that, and they really reject this idea of individualism. You're really supposed to fit in with the rest of society, never doing too much and never standing out. Now, this is why I feel like this is really important to bring up Kuhara. Kuhara was a member of the K-pop group Kara, and she was a really fantastic solo artist. Now, Kuhara was also known for her dating scandals. She got popular for her dating scandals when she dated a member of FT Island, and then the bullying started from then on, where she was considered an attention seeker and boy obsessed, and her whole past was just put out all over the internet for people to see. I will put a pin in Kuhara's name next to a FT Island member because it will wrap back around in a couple minutes. But Kuhara was really known for her final relationship that she had in her life with a man who threatened to release revenge porn on her. There were very intimate photos and videos taken just between the two when they were a couple, and he reported her for domestic abuse and then threatened to release these videos. Now, we saw videos of Kuhara like on her knees begging this man not to do this to her. She had pictures of her whole body being bruised up from the assaults that she received. Yet Korean people still took to the internet to say that she deserved this, that she was boy obsessed and an attention seeker, and that's why she deserved what she's getting. And even the search for her video was trending on things like Naver, with people really looking out for that. Now, the tide started to turn for her ex-boyfriend, however, when the courts decided they were not going to prosecute him to the fullest extent of his crimes. This is when a lot of feminist movements, like the 4B movement, took to the internet and started a petition called My Life Is Not Your Porn to fight back against these digital sex crimes going on in South Korea. Now, this petition garnered over 200,000 signatures and led prosecutors to look more into Kuhara's case, and it led to years of a legal battle. Kuhara's boyfriend is now just living his life, allegedly opened back up his hair salon, whereas Kuhara had taken her own life due to the immense amount of bullying and backlash that she received just for simply dating another K-pop idol and then continuing her life with dating. Women are never really afforded the same protection as men are when it comes to dating, and that's why the 4B movement seeks out a refusal of dating. Bisexual is the refusal of heterosexual sexual relationships. Now, in South Korea, the perpetrators of sexual crimes are never really prosecuted to the fullest extent of their crime. Molka, which are hidden cameras in South Korea, have been a really big issue. I studied abroad in South Korea for 5 months last year, and I remember one of the things that you really had to do is when you're in a public bathroom, you have to look around as a woman because, like, take like this photo for example, this tiny little QR code, you can't see it, but that could be a hidden camera. It's such an extreme thing, but it's ongoing because the courts never really prosecute the perpetrators of these hidden cameras like they actually should be. Now, remember when I said put a pin in Kuhara's name next to a FT Island member? Well, that's because Kuhara had played a vital role in getting the Burning Sun case exposed to the world. A quick little rundown of the Burning Sun case, in case you're not aware, is this is where a lot of high profile men went to a nightclub and they would drug, R word, assault SA women at the basement level of this nightclub because the owner allowed them to do it. Now, I don't like any of these men, but I feel as though their names should be put out there because they should not be able to live their lives like nothing freaking happened. So Sungri from Big Bang, he was a former member, Jung Junyoung and Choi Jong-soon were just examples of people that were involved in the Burning Sun case. There were idols that were in a group chat. First off, Sungri owned the club, and there were idols that were in a group chat, and they admitted in the group chat to doing all these things to these women. They had a bunch of hidden camera photos and everything of them in these acts of R-wording and saying these women and just laughing at these victims. Kuhara had called up a journalist and said that she was going through the same things as these women and she wanted to help. She called up this FT Island member who was involved in the case and told him that she just wanted to know more. And he basically explained the whole thing to her while on the phone with this journalist. Now, a lot of the women that were victims of these crimes, some of the journalists and a lot of men that had helped them out were doxxed online, fired from their jobs, and they even faced defamation lawsuits. And that's the issue. The silencing of women in South Korea is such a severe thing when it comes to sexual crimes, especially the digital sexual crimes in South Korea. The 4B movement was really essential in the Burning Sun case because they helped people find out about this online and really pushed it out there so people can see what is going on. And this is why there is a refusal of heterosexual sexual relationships within South Korea under Burning Sun, is because if women aren't allowed that same protection when dating these men, how are they going to know they're going to have this protection when it comes to their body and sexual crimes against their own body? Kuhara is an example of this again because she didn't get any of those protections both in a heterosexual sexual relationship and while dating. And that's why the 4B movement really refuses heterosexual sexual relationships. Picho-san is the refusal of childbirth. Now, under Confucianism, a woman's most important role is to be a mother. Now, there's a phenomenon in South Korea that a woman's life by age 30 is really like the end of her life. I had read a journal article about this where a lot of women are expected to just give up their whole life once they hit the age 30 to start a family. When I was in South Korea, my sociology professor had showed us the movie Born 1983, Kim Ji-young, and this movie dealt with postpartum depression, with issues like molka, and other gender issues within South Korea. It's based on a book of the same name. The book has won tons of awards. I really recommend either watching the movie or reading the book. They're both really good. Born in 1983, Kim Ji-young follows Kim Ji-young as she is a mother and the postpartum depression she experiences as a mother. She's expected to just quit her life and stay with this kid until they're of age to like go to school. And even when the kid goes to school, she's expected to stay home, clean up, and plan for like dinner and stuff. She's unhappy and experiences severe depression, but she faces nothing but backlash from other members of society, more so from her family, of not being the perfect wife for her husband and her child. Her husband says that he is willing to like quit his job and for her to go back to the workforce because that's what she really wants, and even he is shamed for it and made out to be less of a man. In South Korea, women are fighting back against this, especially women that partake in the 4B movement. Now, I can't say if the 4B movement is the sole cause of the low birth rate in South Korea, but it plays a huge role in it because of the refusal of childbirth. Now, South Korea had released a list of like women of childbearing ages around South Korea a while ago, and I can't even begin to talk about how problematic this is in general because I just feel like with the rise of anti-feminism in a country like this, releasing women in certain provinces of childbearing ages just puts women in a more difficult position. But that's beside me. One thing I can remember that my sociology professor had told us, we were learning about this, she had said like they're giving more visas now to like students and like K-pop visas. And that's so that like more women can come in and have kids. And because these Korean women won't have kids with these men because these men are treating them horribly and the government is just reducing them to their body and the functions of their body. The 4B movement is still protesting for the refusal of childbirth because women should not be reduced to just being mothers. Mothers shouldn't be reduced to just being mothers. Women are much more than that. They have way more aspirations in life and they should be treated as such. Bihun is the refusal of marriage. My, do I have a lot to say on the refusal of marriage in South Korea? One of the places that I'll start on is women are expected to be married by a certain age and they lose so many privileges if they are not married by that age. One journal article I read had mentioned that a lot of women in South Korea are refused houses if they're not married, and a lot of them are shamed even in the workplace for not being married. This should not be occurring, especially when there's so many like sexual, not only sexual crimes, but also abuse that goes on within marriages in South Korea, but the police just treat it as like, oh, they're in a relationship, like just move on. Now, when I was doing my research for this, I had watched Hello Counselor, and I used to watch Hello Counselor all the time in high school. Watching it back as a grown adult is so disappointing. Like, Hello Counselor is a show where real life people come on, they talk about their problems that they've been having, and there's an audience of people that basically judge their issues going on. Not only this, they're talking about their problems to a whole panel of not therapists, but celebrities. And these celebrities give them the worst life advice in the world. Like, oh my God, your husband is abusing you. Just wait. Just wait, like he'll get better. It's like the worst advice ever, and then you put them against like people who like, oh my God, I've been eating too much ramen, and then the audience like votes on whose problems are more important, as if these problems could ever amount to each other. I'm really passionate about how Hello Counselor is so ridiculous, but I rewatched it back just to watch the marriage episodes, and like most of them, a lot of the time, the women were told like, you're just immature right now and things will get better, while their husbands are emotionally, verbally abusing them. Some of their husbands actually abusing them, and it's just like, he is a horrible man. Yes. But are you in a marriage and should you fight for your marriage? Yes. It's like the worst advice ever, but everyone is collectively agreeing on this. And I feel like it really shows that negative side of Korean society where women are expected to just sit back and let their husbands do stuff solely because that's their husband. These women are reduced to nothing more than their relational statuses, especially as it pertains to a man. And this should not be the case because seeing a woman as a person, you have to really look at her aside from who she is pertaining to a man, but as her own human being. And that's why the 4B movement really fights against this. To leave these women in this little box will only allow for more violence to occur towards these women and this cycle to just keep repeating itself. And it's very sad to see and think about. And that's why the 4B movement really calls for a refusal of marriage. So, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really think the 4B movement will be all that successful overseas. Controversial opinion, maybe. I feel like a lot of women were bringing it up on TikTok and being like, I've already done the 4B movement my whole life. I've never had sex. But it's way more than just like having sex. A lot of the women that partake in the 4B movement in South Korea cut their hair off to have like this short hair. They don't wear makeup. They refuse to talk to, some of them have refused to talk to their own fathers and brothers. And it's like that extreme that you have to go to. And even in South Korea, the 4B movement really isn't holding up because, again, people don't like it when others step out of the grain in South Korea. Now, do I feel like it could possibly work better in America where individualism is celebrated? Yeah, but do I think it would really make a difference? No, because even in the recent election, we see the huge majority of some groups of women that voted for someone who really doesn't care about their bodies whatsoever. So it just shows how much the patriarchy is still ongoing to this day. And unless we're willing to really dig deeper and deeper and deeper into these structural issues within every society on a global scale, I don't think the 4B movement can properly be done and really make a change, unfortunately. And it's really sad because we see things like femicides going on in Latin America and in America right now with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and like abortion rights being taken away from a lot of women. It's sad to see this as something so extreme because a lot of the time that's why men are like, well, your body's actually my body. Oh, you're gonna try to stop having sex with me? Well, no, I'm gonna make sure. There's a rise of anti-feminism in South Korea that's going on, and it becomes really dangerous for women who are partaking in these things. So I just feel like we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at it on a global scale, and even just in South Korea, if it would work fully. They're making a lot of changes, like getting cases like the burning sun out there, like exposing these digital sex crimes, and they are changing things. Like we see this in the refusal of childbirth. They're changing some things, but I feel like it comes at a cost of putting themselves at a risk, and it would come at that cost for women all over the world. And I'm sad, really sad to say that. So yeah, that was my video on the 4B movement in South Korea. It was a little bit more serious of a video and how it like relates to different medias in South Korea. I can go on for ages about some of these, especially Hello Counselor. Like it's such a ridiculous show. But the 4B movement, as extreme as it is, I do feel like it calls to question a lot of things that go on globally for women and whether or not they should be partaking in it. So I do urge people to look more into the 4B movement, but I do want to call into question how the intersectionality works in the 4B movement and all other things. So thank you for watching this video. I know it's a really serious topic, but I feel like it's a really important one for people to know about.